So when we take a look and we are asked to go in H5, if you look at your notes, 90 degrees about the origin. 90 degrees is meaning that we are going in that counterclockwise direction. So right above this, x to negative y, we want to put this arrow, kind of like starting with the x, going towards the y. So anytime we are going 90, 90 is trying to tell us counterclockwise. Going from P to P prime, that is a 90-degree angle. 180 is nice because they both become the opposite. And if we are doing 270, 270 is the same as a negative 90, which please put, if you are looking at this one, put the arrow going towards from the y to the negative x. So in your notes, these arrows are what I want you to make sure you put down. So here, going towards. In this one, going back, having the arrow pointing at the one that is changing. Okay? So we always want the arrow pointing at the one that is changing. In this case, the negative x changed to the opposite. This is going to be the opposite of y. So 90 degrees is going counterclockwise. If you see the 270, that is still 270 counterclockwise, or we could think of it as a negative 90 going clockwise. So if I was going from this point to here, this would also be 90 clockwise. Okay, so make sure you have those arrows. So from yesterday's, we're going to kind of look at this a little more and practice a little more with this. So it tells us to go a negative 90. Negative 90. First thing we want to do is it says, we're going to ask to rotate it. That means we want to put down our rule. So our rule is going to be, and I think there's enough room for you to put this right below here, x comma y is going to change. So negative 90. That's the same as going 270, right? Negative 90. We want to put our arrow going this way. So it's going to change to y and opposite x. So if I look at point C, right behind here, please label point C. C is located at 0, 3. So where would our C prime be? We got to use this rule. It would be at 3, 0. So by putting this rule down, this kind of helps me. 3, 0. This is my C prime, which this is a 90-degree negative turn, okay? From this C to the origin to here. So now we want to look at point D. Point D was originally located at 1, 1. Using our rule, what am I looking at, Timothy, for D prime? 1, and negative 1. So 1, negative 1, 1 and down to negative 1 is our D prime. Now we're looking at E. Now the nice thing about this is, what do I notice from C to E? It was a horizontal line, right? And it went over 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So shouldn't this be going down from C? And shouldn't E prime be right here? And I maybe don't have to list the points, right? So as you're doing it, because I know that this is 4 over and I can easily check that, E was located, if I look at where E originally was, E was at 4, 3. And it now should be at 3, negative 4, which is where it ends up. So it's really nice when I'm looking at this one, right, that C to E here is horizontal. When I do a 90-degree turn, it should change just the opposite and be vertical. The question asks, does the shape, size, or orientation change when you rotate? Does the shape change? No, only if I drew it wrong or kind of missed my points, right? So it should be no. Did the size change? No. No, and orientation. So if we are looking at rotating it, do any of these change? None change, right? Or none of them will change. They're all the same size, it's the same shape, same orientation. If you would think of going around from C to D to E, to C to D to E, still going that same. Okay. All right. So now we're taking a look at the trapezoids. This one tells us to go 90 degrees, which means we want to go, if we're putting our rule down, right? So I might put my rule as X comma Y. Which way would the 90 go? 90 is telling us counterclockwise, right? So I put that arrow. That tells me that the first one is not going to be Y, but negative Y, comma X. Because when it's 90, either clockwise or counter, it always has to switch to the opposite. So again, we might list our points. So as we are listing our points, H, what I notice about H and I, right, is the line was vertical. It's now should be horizontal wherever I draw that. So if I think of where point H is, H was located at -3, +2. So Chase, if I'm looking at H prime, where's H prime going to be? -2. Does the Y, does this one change? So when I'm looking at that, I agree that the first one's going to be -2. So it becomes the opposite of our Y. Our Y was 2. So -2, but it will stay as -3. So I'm going to go to -2 and down to -3. This is my point H. Okay. I want to look at point I. I originally was at -3, -1. So if I am now looking at I prime, where is that one going to be located, Maddie? It's going to be the opposite of our Y, so it's going to be 1, and it's going to be -3. 1, -3. Which makes sense if we think about this, right? Here was HI, now it's over here, H to I.
Wow.
If I'm going to take a look at J, J was at -2, -2. Ellie, you ready for J prime? We're going to take the opposite of our Y, 2, and -3. Right? So 2, oh, -2, my fault. 2 and -2. So we're going to go to 2, -2. Which from I to J, this is now my J prime, right? Okay. How far between J and K? How many units? 5 units, right? So from J to K prime, 1, 2, 3, 4. Shouldn't K prime be right here? And I maybe don't have to, because I still want to keep that trapezoid shape. So once you kind of can start drawing it, you might not need to list every single point, but sometimes it's good to check it. But once you get the shape and you've turned it a certain way, and we know that this is 5, the shape never changes, right? The size doesn't change. The orientation doesn't change if we are going around there. Jack, question?
So, like, if we can see it right away, like how it turns and like where the points are, do we have to show all of them?
No, you don't have to show all the points. No. Good question. So you don't have to show all the points unless you really kind of need to see those as you are looking at them. Okay?
I'm confused, like, if it says rotate the angle, well, already this one, because it's just upside down.
So upside down, it's going to be upside down. But
Like,
again,
you just turn it like half.
if we're looking at where B is at 1, 1. 180 means it's going to be now at -1, -1. If I look at C, C was located right here at 2, 1. They're both going to become opposites, right? So it has to be right down from B. This is going to be my C prime. Point A is above the C, right? It's right above the C up here. So here it has to be right below the C. And this is our A prime.
Well, like when it says 90 or
So how does the shape orientation change when rotating? It stays the same, right?
Why isn't the A, B, the A, C?
because in the original picture they didn't connect it, so that's the only reason. Just, I mean, they didn't make this a triangle. If they would have made it a triangle, then here you would have had this triangle too. They just had this L shape. So it's kind of like the line segment one that you did in your homework. Okay. So they just didn't have this line in here. Okay. So it says, when you rotate a figure, do you always get congruent images? Yes. When you rotate it, does the orientation always change? No. Okay. If we are looking at this next picture in your notes, you are simply asked, does each show a rotation, and if so, tell the degree. So what I want you to look at right now is if it is a rotation, so like in this first one, does it look like it's a rotation from the blue to the red? And you'll notice that because of the prime, this is your new one, right? So this does look like a rotation. How many degrees would you say? 180. So if it's a rotation, you're going to put yes, then you're going to tell me 180. So I want you to go through right now and positive or negative 90. Keep thinking about on this first page of our notes, right? If you are turning from your original and you go counterclockwise, we keep it as a positive 90. If you are turning from one point and you're going in that clockwise direction, then it's a negative 90 or a positive 270. Those two mean the same thing, okay? So when we take a look at our pictures, we said yes, 180. Second one is we are looking at it. What did you say, Logan? Second one, was it a reflection?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
It was a rotation? I think should be a reflection. Because, and I know, were you thinking 180 again?
That one.
Because if I would flip this around, I'm flipping it over instead of turning it. If I was going to do a 180 degree turn, this MN would have to be like over here. It actually would end up over here. So if I'm looking at this next one, as I look at this one, Alex, what do you think?
Negative 9 degrees.
So yes to rotation, and you said negative 90 degrees, because we are going from this picture, and we are going in this direction, counterclockwise. So when it is counterclockwise, looking back, was that our positive or negative?
I thought that was 90. Yeah. Not. No.
Regular 90, right? So Alex, it should be positive 90. It was a positive 90. So negative 90 is when you go in the clockwise direction, right? Okay. So if we are looking at this one is our original, this is our new one, this should be a positive 90. Okay. Taking a look at the crown as we look at that one down below. Should this one be a rotation? This would be a yes to a rotation. Key thing, you're going here and you're going to the original one. So this one would be a negative 90 degrees. Okay, quick please. Negative 90. The middle one here should be a no to reflection. It is a translation. If we are looking at this one, I can see WX was vertical here. Here, W prime X prime is horizontal. So this is a yes. How many degrees would we be looking at? Again, if we are looking from here to here, you could go positive 270, or you could say negative 90. I would take either answer. Okay. Same thing for this one. I would have taken a positive 270. Last page of your notes before we get started. So, rotating 90. Which direction are we going? Clockwise or counter? So, again, if I am going to start, put your rule. X comma Y, 90 degrees, means we are going counterclockwise. It's going to change it to negative or opposite y, x. So in this one, there's probably enough room right below here. Point N is located at 1 and -2, which means N prime should be located, Hayden, where? Take the opposite of our y, 2, and then the x stays the same. So x was 1, we're going to keep it as 1. So we're going to go to the point 2, 1. And if we look at that, does that look like a 90-degree turn? Yeah, N prime. So now we're going to do point L. L, Cassidy, is located where? The original L. Careful, go over first. So 4,
My
and
bad,
then,
my bad. I wasn't paying attention.
and how about negative? -3.
-3.
If we are going, Sophia, to the L prime, 3, 4. So we can go to 3 and then up to 4. As I'm looking at that next one, Emily, point M is located where? 2, -4. So Stephen, M prime is going to be located at 4, 2. So over to 4 and up to 2. So some of yours will start like this, and then it might give you a second direction, right? So this does look like we rotated it up. Some of you like to shade that in. Again, you don't always have to list the points, but you want to make sure you're getting yours to match up. And that last one of 180, do we maybe need to list the points for this one? Probably not. So I might know that this is -1, -3, so I'm going to go to 1 and 1 and 3, right?
What?
So 1, -1, -3, I am now going to look at 1, 3. The z was at -1, 4. This is our z prime, right? This was our y prime. Okay? I notice that from y to x, it's over 2. From y to x, it's going to go over 2, and I have my x prime. And again, you could list the points if that's helpful to you, but you don't need to. Okay? When you start your homework, you want to make sure that -90, you know which direction. So, what I want for you to do, he is trying to tell us to go in this way, 270, all the way around to here. This is the same as -90 degrees, right? So when we start this first one, our first rule is x, y. We want to go with the rule for the -90, which tells us our arrow should point at the second one. Y -x, right? 270 counterclockwise is the same as a -90 if we are looking at it clockwise. So when you list the points, they're already listed for A, right? So all you really have to do is list A prime. So where should A prime be? We had 6, -1. It's now going to be,
One.
the y stays the same, so it's going to be -1 and then 6. -1 and 6. If I'm looking at that, that is a 90-degree turn. This is our A prime. We don't have to list B. B is listed up here. So when you list 8, 1, it's now going to be at 1 and opposite of X.
What are we on?
So B.
One
and -8.
I thought Y stays the same.
The Y, they switch places. The Y comes first, opposite of our X.
Okay.
So we are at 1, and in this case, we are at 1 and 8.
What?
8, 1 becomes,
Yeah.
so negative 1, 6. 1 and negative 8. 1 and. It's supposed to be what? So when we are looking at that 270, if we're going around, that's negative 90, right? 6 negative 1 stays as negative 1, 6. 8, 1 is going to become 1. Can't be negative 8, can it?
Now,
It'd be just,
wait, Mom, this is going 90.
I think we do 270.
The A should have been at, did I have that wrong? Is it negative 1, negative 6? Negative 1 should be down here and negative 6, right? Because which one changes to the opposite? The new X, it was 6, it's now going to be negative 6. This one is going to be 1 and negative 8. 1 and down to 8. That is our B prime. So if we look at this, this AB has now become right here. This same line is down here. Where is our C prime going to be?
C prime is going to be.
So we're going to put the Y first. So the Y first is going to be negative 3 and negative
9.
9. Negative 3 all the way down to negative 9. When we do D prime, as you look at that one, is going to be located at negative 5 and negative 7. And negative 7. Once you have those points, it now says you're going to do this last one. So you are now going to slide it how far to the left? I am probably not listing my points when I do this last one, right? I am going to move each one over 2 and up 1. This is my new D double prime. This is the one that you might want to highlight as you look at your answers. And you're going to do the same with each of those points. Move each point back 2 over 1. Back 2 over up 1. Back 2 and up 1. And this is the figure that if I'm looking at you highlighting or shading in, this would be the one that you actually want to highlight or shade in. So when you look at those answers in the back. Tomorrow, I will be kind of checking your homework through D5. So make sure you're kind of keeping up. And what I'd like for you to do